It's day 2 of the Advent calendar, my friends. Time to talk about dark events, some of the more specialized Advent soldiers, and getting your priorities in order. Before we get started, the format of videos 2 through 24 will be as follows. I'll be using the incoming transmission clip to signify the changes between topics, strategy, tactics, and disposition, and I'm going to avoid using exciting video clips during each segment, so feel free to minimize the browser and let the XCOM factoids wash over you radio or podcast style.
The time has come to reclaim our world. Welcome back, Commander.
Incoming transmission.
Day 2, Strategy, Dark Events. Dark Events are the upgraded abduction mechanic from XCOM Enemy Unknown. You'll be presented with multiple dark events, and you will be able to prevent one or more of them depending on your actions, but you're not going to be able to prevent them all. And happily, they do more interesting things than simply raise panic. They can send a hunter UFO after the Avenger. They can equip the Advent with new and interesting ammunition to kill you. They can cause additional faceless to show up, maybe extra enemies to show up, reduce your supply gains in a specific area, increase enemy sight range, or health. And that's just a smattering of the many awful dark events I'm sure are out there to make your playthrough hellish. So, how do you deal with dark events? You'll be notified occasionally that dark events are happening. You are not notified when a dark event begins. You're simply notified that it's in progress. Presumably the aliens can only have about 3 in progress at once. And you won't be told what one of them is. Maybe it's always just one that you're not told about, that is hidden. Or maybe it can vary, possibly depending on other dark events. What you can do, however, is spend some intel to find out what the hidden dark event is, and you will be offered tactical missions shortly after the dark events are revealed, which will let you counter one or more of them. You won't always get to counter the dark event that you deem most detrimental to yourself, but I think generally you'll probably be offered a shot at 2 of the 3 dark events going on. Maybe all 3 if you've got a lot of territory. I'm not sure. It's probably random. But you're going to be forced to choose the lesser of 2 to 3 evils. And in a sneaky, underhanded way, the devs have made this even trickier than that. Since you're told about the dark events sometime after they've begun, and the dark events are on their own timer, you won't know if you actually have enough time to get to the tactical mission causing a dark event, or to the tactical mission preventing the dark event, if you're successful, before that dark event actually triggers. It can work the other way too. You may have plenty of time on a given dark events counter to go take out another mission and turn around and finish up that one too, thus preventing 2 dark events that you were told about. In the end, you're simply going to have to choose wisely and take your licks when the RNG turns against you, just like always in XCOM.
Incoming transmission.
Day 2, Tactics, the Advent Lancers and Shieldbearers. The Lancer is a hyper-aggressive, melee-focused disruptor unit. Though it does have a mag rifle, we've been told that it desperately wants to, use its stun lance, this barbed, electrified sword that it carries around. What you can expect from the Lancer is a high speed. They will close with you very quickly. You can expect moderate damage from the sword. Since it's a melee attack, it may be more accurate. Generally, when you don't have cover involved, you're much more likely to get hit, but I have seen it miss and I have seen it crit in various gameplay scenarios. So it's not guaranteed, but it's probably bad, especially because it's going to inflict debuffs that disorient, stun, or leave your unit unconscious. Disorient can disrupt your control over hacked mechs, might be able to disrupt psi abilities or any other channeled abilities, and generally makes your next turn much less effective. Stun takes away your next turn, maybe just one, but maybe both. I don't know how stun works in XCOM 2, but it's not going to be good because you don't get many actions and they're kind of your most precious resource. And unconsciousness takes away your soldier for the rest of the mission unless you have some special resource to revive them with. So that's going to be really brutal. It's not dead, but it might as well be for until you end that mission. And then you're going to have to carry around your unconscious buddy with someone else, which is obviously subpar. And then you can expect risky behavior from these people. The Lancers are going to run up in your face regardless of cover, and they're going to try and whack you with their electro sticks. And because they are willing to throw their lives away, they are significantly more dangerous to you than enemies that don't want to die and won't throw their lives away simply to whack you once. Because in XCOM, getting hit is bad, and the enemy has way more people to throw at you than you have to throw away. So, how do you deal with these maniacs? First, you can counter their debuffs with the Specialist Revival Protocol. It cancels out mental status effects like disorient, unconsciousness, stuff like that, presumably. Medikits likely do something similar. You can target them first and take them out. That's going to be your go-to, most likely, like Berserkers in Enemy Unknown. Anything that closes with you and causes either massive damage or really painful debuffs, you just want to take out as soon as possible. And everything else you can back away from because it's going to take cover, and be careful. These things are just going to right up in your face. And then as a last-ditch effort, you can tank with someone if you can figure out how to get the Lancer to target them. I don't know how to do that. Maybe the Lancers are smarter than they were previously, but likely you can make someone resistant to disorient, or you can have someone who it doesn't matter if they're disorient because they were just going to reload next turn or whatever. There's probably better targets that you can select for it than it will select on its own. And you can probably expect to see these guys constantly throughout the early game. So, what about the Shieldbearer? We know less about the Shieldbearer. They will have an area of effect ground pound that boosts nearby enemies. I'm going to guess armor. Maybe defense, maybe both, maybe regenerate a little health. Whatever it does, it's going to make them tougher. And I think armor is the best bet because defense is a hit or miss. It's hard to tell if defense was effective. And sometimes RNG sides with XCOM and defense won't make any difference at all. Whereas armor is always going to be effective. If it takes damage, it will take less damage. And I think with the low health of most of the Advent, armor is going to be what they get, which is going to make these guys really annoying. It's going to make them really tough, and it's going to make them more effective the more enemies they can affect at once. It also boosts themselves, as we've seen in this nice little GIF you can see on the XCOM website. So, when these guys are around, expect fights to go on longer, expect you to have to reload more often, which uses up some of your actions, and since fights are going on longer, you can expect more enemies to show up while you're fighting, most likely. So all in all, bad news bears. That's probably why we haven't seen any in the initial gameplay, is because they're kind of advanced units, and you'll need somewhat heavier weapons than the initial row to deal with them in any convenient, quick kind of way. So, how do you counter them? Sharpshooters, rangers, anyone who specializes in taking out single targets or crits or sneaking up or whatever. It's when it's active and it's used its ground pound that it's most dangerous, so take it out really fast. The last is killing everything else. On their own, their defensive buff is probably fairly lame against a full squad's firepower, so take them out as fast as possible, or take out their friends as fast as possible, kind of like the captain, but probably a little more annoying.
Incoming transmission.
Day 2, Disposition Priorities. In XCOM, there's a couple things that have remained true through every iteration of the franchise. And that is that you need to prioritize your actions to keep a constant flow of resources, research, and tactical successes coming your way. So, in general, here is what you're going to have to focus on from most important to least. First off, loss scenarios. Anything that's going to cause you to instantly lose, you have to throw everything you can at as soon as possible. That means the Avatar project, though slow, if it starts to get into the critical late stages where the aliens only need 1 or 2 facilities to achieve that full red bar of doom, you're going to have to dig deep into enemy territory, find those facilities, and crush them. Base defenses, which probably means hunter UFOs. You're going to want to stop those dark events as soon as possible, and it's probably one of the major reasons why you want to reveal hidden dark events so you don't accidentally let a hunter UFO shoot you down and put you in a situation where your game can end instantaneously. So if you're not going to instantly lose, what's next? Next, you want to focus on your income and your resources. This includes personnel, but it also includes credits, supplies, intel, contact, basically everything that lets you purchase more bonuses in the game or lets you bring in more income, you're going to want, because you need a really healthy economy throughout the game if you're going to purchase all the goodies that are going to make winning possible. But purchasing isn't enough. You need to have access to better goodies than you start with. And through that, you need research. Research is always a uber high priority in XCOM. I put it roughly below loss scenarios and income resources because I think without income resources you can't afford to research, but that might not actually be the case in XCOM 2. Either way, research is going to be critical, and you want to do everything you can to speed up your research and keep it running smoothly and efficiently. If you can't research what you want, research something fast. As a matter of fact, I suggest researching faster things all the time because generally you want some sort of bonus as soon as possible. The longer you wait to get a bonus, the longer the enemy ramps up while you are static. Now, eventually that might pay off, but I think that a bunch of small gains really outweighs a long-term gain. And often those really long researches, by the time you research all the short ones, your ability to research has increased, and they're not going to be that long. And there are other long researches after it. So go ahead and just snap up all the small bonuses and go with that. On the strategic map, your priorities are generally going to be capturing more resources, dividing your time between seeking out tactical missions to prevent dark events and gain personnel and progress the plot, and performing logistical operations where there is no tactical side to gain additional supplies or other advantages. These look really interesting and we haven't heard too much about them, but I am excited to dig into those sometime later. The last thing you want to do is increase your territory or fight back against alien retaliation attacks that disrupt your territory. So those are the 3 things: resources, missions, and territory that you're going to really have to focus on in the strategic level. In the tactical level, the most important thing is encounter management. How many enemies you're fighting at once, it determines your tactical success almost all the time. So you're going to keep in mind stealth. You're going to keep them on sight lines because if you can see the enemy, they can see you, they're going to attack you. So try and hide on roofs, on the other sides of buildings, attack isolated squads. A stealthed scout, the scouty side of the ranger class, is likely to be your best friend in avoiding squads that and avoiding triggering multiple squads at once. And when you do have to fight, make sure it's over fast before other enemy pods can wander in and make your life miserable. So, besides encounter management, you're going to focus down the worst targets. That's going to depend on what you can deal with and what the enemies can dish out, and I have seen some awful ones, especially the recently revealed Gatekeeper looks brutal. You're going to want it. And the last part is objectives. Often your objectives will have some sort of time frame that you're going to have to pay attention to. So advancing continuously towards your objectives is likely to be a thing. And then, of course, secondary objectives like loot will pop up during the missions, and you're just going to have to try and achieve those while doing everything else at the same time. A note about loot: we've seen Elerium cores, intel pads, and mods for your weapons all drop. And the Elerium cores are important. Notably, they can be turned into random ammo upgrades back at the Avenger. But Garth DeAngelis has said that they are a pretty valuable resource, so guard them well and collect them whenever possible. Alright friends, that's it for day 2. If you enjoyed this content, please go ahead and like this video. If you'd like to see the next Advent Calendar video as soon as it comes out, please subscribe to my channel. And tomorrow we're going to cover cascading decisions, Vipers and the Faceless, and encounter management. All incredibly important tools for winning XCOM 2. Until then, farewell.